All right, back of another tier rankings, a Christmas edition of the tier rankings show. Merry Christmas to all who celebrate Christmas. Also doing something a little different. I'm showing what I did last week. I don't know why I waited so long to do this, but these are where I had everyone last week. Then I'm going to now reset it and promptly forget where I had everyone last week and probably make something that makes put someone somewhere that makes no sense because I forgot. But let's just get into it. Starting off with the Bengals, who I think are mid at this point. What a tough game. But again, I don't know. Starting to wonder, is it possible the Steelers just play the Bengals well? Like they have something on the Bengals offense? Perhaps that's what's going on here. But, they need Joe Burrow back, really. Although Browning has looked good when he's not playing the Steelers. The Giants have yet to play this week, so I believe I put them in pluck with bad. They're going to stay there. There's a number of teams that have yet to play, including the Niners, who are going to stay there. Because again, can't do this on Christmas. I'm not going to do this. I'm spending time with the family. I'm actually recording this Christmas Eve, but that's why I'm doing that. The Saints, disappointing loss. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I put them in this maybe playoffs after I got maybe too excited with the Giants win. I think I'm putting them back down to, I don't know. Yeah, I'm putting them back down to mid. Just this Derek Carr thing has just been so uninspiring this season, right? I think, I had moderately high hopes for how this could go, and it has not gone well. It just hasn't. It hasn't been a disaster, but it hasn't gone well. The Bears are still plucky but bad. That feels right? I mean, I think that they've found ways to win certain games. They won against the Cardinals, but they're still plucky. And you just talking about the Cardinals, I think they're just bad at this point. Kyler makes them interesting, but they're still not a great team. And the Packers, I've had the Packers maybe in as many tiers as any team. They beat the Panthers, but did not look great doing it. I'm going to keep them in the mid-tier at this point just because, that feels right. The defense is playing terrible. The offense is playing pretty good, but yeah, they feel mid to me. The Ravens still have yet to play. 2 Super Bowl contenders will be going at it. Loser, I probably will still keep in the tier as long as they look decent doing it. The Cowboys, I had in the first year, I dropped them down, and I don't know. They played Miami very difficult. It was probably an overreaction last week, dropping them down. So I'm going to keep them back in Super Bowl contenders just because I think I overreacted last week. The Bills, again, that was not an inspiring win. And it's like, the Bills, I feel like you can't keep doing this, right? You can't keep having these down weeks. Like, at a certain point, every season now, it's come back to bite them, and I'm worried it's going to happen again, where it's like, can this team if they can play their best football for 4 straight weeks, they'd win the Super Bowl, but I don't know if they can do it. I'm still putting them in the for sure playoffs, however. Tier doesn't mean they're for sure going to get into the playoffs, just they're for sure a playoff team, in my opinion. There's still so much talent there and so much potential, but like the Chargers, who I have in just bad because without Herbert obviously bumps them up at least a tier or 2, but with the injury, they're just not a good team right now. There's no reason that game should have been close, in my opinion. The Broncos. So Broncos and Patriots. I've only watched half of the game. I'm recording this during halftime of that game. So because of that, I don't. I'm gonna assume everything stays. I'm just going to assume Denver ends up winning. If some crazy upset happens, unfortunately, I will miss it. And I don't love doing that. I don't love, doing content in the middle of a game and then talking about it like that. But just, again, it's how I have to do it this week with Christmas and all that. But Patriots, I don't know. Their defense is good enough. I think I put them in plucky but bad last week. Their defense is good enough. That's where they belong. But they're still not great. The Lions are interesting. So for one thing, hey, Lions, pop the champagne. You won the division. It's super awesome. But once we get past all of that, they're an interesting team right now, right? I mean, there are things about this Lions team that's awesome, but they did give up a lot of yards, and they gave up a lot of passing to a team that, has Nick Mullins at quarterback. That being said, they generated a lot of turnovers, which makes their defense so interesting. Some defenses just stink. This defense has bad parts of it, but also can generate turnovers, and that's why I find them so fascinating. So that's why I can't quite put them in Super Bowl contenders, but they're still in the for sure playoffs. However, tier, the Chiefs, I did drop out of Super Bowl contenders, and I gotta stick with my guns at least for another week. Keep them in here for now, at least. The Falcons, this was the kind of game that we see them put together. If they can not turn the ball over, this is the kind of team they should be. And so I kind of want to put them in maybe playoffs, but I've seen it too many times where they have a game like this, and then they have a game like what we saw with the Panthers. They look better with Heineke, though, so I could see them bumping up a tier. I'm just worried it's a little too late now. They kind of need some help at this point. Even if they win out, they need some help. The Eagles are not Super Bowl contenders as of right now. They're in the for sure playoffs, however, tier, just because their coverage has not been great, and they haven't been winning on the outside offensively a lot. Hurts hasn't been as good this season, so this is where I have them. The Browns, I'm actually maybe as high on the Browns as I've been all season. I'm putting them all the way up here. Browns fans are going to be saying, what? Jackson is high on this team? What's going on? Joe Flacco has somehow been the best quarterback they've fielded. I'm not saying he's been great, and he has had some stinkers there, and even in this game, it wasn't perfect pass in and pass out, but some of these plays are really good, and hey, having a quarterback who's just going to throw it up to Amari Cooper every play, honestly, not the worst strategy for Cleveland, and their defense is so good. I think they're for sure in the playoffs. However we know it, still is Joe Flacco, and the offense in general, even forget about Flacco, I still think has some holes, but yeah, they're certainly a very fun team. All of a sudden, very watchable with Flacco there. The Texans are weird. So without Stroud, which right now they're without Stroud, they are mid, in my opinion. Stroud comes back, they're at least up a tier. Probably I would put them in the maybe playoffs tier right now, because they still have other injuries. But with Nico Collins back, if they can get a healthy Stroud, I still think they can be a playoff team. But without him, this is where they're at. The Colts, no getting around it. This was a disastrous game from them. It just was. I still think I'm going to put them in the maybe playoffs tier. I know that, Falcons fans might be upset. I'm putting them below the Colts, but just the overall body of work for me for the Colts has been more impressive, even though this was a tough game. It was, and I'm leaning towards actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I am going to put them in the mid tier. There's things to like about them, but just offensively, they couldn't get anything going. And if they have to drop back and just pass, that's a tough situation, and that's what they had to do in this game, and they could not get it done. So the Rams are maybe playoffs. They still have had some bad games, but they're playing really good football as of late. And this past 3-4 week stretch has been very fantastic. And you know what? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take a team out of a tier. I'm going to actually bump them up a tier. They've been playing really good football as of late. And I just think that, they continue to do this. They beat the Saints. They made the Saints look bad. Like, this is what you want to see out of the Rams. They feel like a for sure playoff team. Again, their record is a little bit tougher, so it's no guarantee. I'm not saying they're for sure going to make the playoffs. This just means that's the caliber of team I think they are. So maybe I need to reworkshop the tier names. But for now, this is where I have them. Next up is the Miami Dolphins beating the Cowboys, who, if I bump them up to Super Bowl contenders in a loss, again, mostly just recorrecting my mistake last week, I think, I got to keep the Dolphins in Super Bowl contenders. Even in a game where Tyreek Hill wasn't able to go off, he had 99 yards. What a scrub, right? They're still able to win this game against a really good team. Their defense has been playing great recently. Really good stuff. Have to be happy if you are a Dolphins fan. The Vikings, again, what a weird team. I don't know. It's another one of those weeks where every team feels mid to me. I'm going to put them in mid. I mean, their defense is awesome. It really is. But if they can't find ways to not turn the ball over, Justin Jefferson is good enough. I don't know. There's things to like about this team. It's a must-win game against Green Bay. That should be really fascinating. Winner stays alive. Loser is basically out. So that'll be a fun game. But, it's not out of question. They win the next two, they can get in, but I just don't know if they can win the next two, given the quarterback play we've seen from them since Cousins has gone down. Again, this team is a great team if they have their healthy quarterback. It is what it is. The Jets, I don't know. I'm going to put the Jets and Washington both in just bad. That was a weird game. That was a stupid game. Neither one of those teams are very good. The Panthers, do I want to put them up to plucky but bad? I still don't. I think, while this was a good game, and Bryce Young did do some nice things. I know Packers defense, all that. He did legitimately do some nice things, but again, overall body of work has not been overly impressive for Carolina. Playing better football these past couple of weeks. I don't know. Do it again next week. You can get into the plucky but bad tier, perhaps. At least they're finishing the season strong. Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll put them back into maybe playoffs. I think I put them in plucky but bad, but that's because, again, they were getting terrible quarterback play. If you can get I don't know, solid quarterback play with Rudolph, which is kind of what they got with Kenny Pickett. Well, now they feel like the Steelers again, where they can steal games. They can hang around, keep games close, and just have, George Pickens makes his couple of plays a game, TJ Watt makes his couple of plays a game, and they just know everybody else just doesn't screw it up, and they can find, and contributes where they can, and they can find a way to make the playoffs. I don't know if it happens, but that's why they're in the maybe playoffs tier. The Seahawks, not their most impressive win. It wasn't. I'm still going to put them in the for sure playoffs, however, tier, and I do think they get in after beating the Eagles. I think that they find a way to make that happen, which, if I remember correctly, I believe I did not talk about that game yet when I made my tier rankings last week, but yeah, they feel like a playoff team. Good stuff, finding ways to win. And the Buccaneers, I think I bumped them up to maybe playoffs last week, if I remember correctly, but I don't know. I'm going to do it. Let's put them into for sure playoffs, however, tier. Listen, there's good stuff. Like, if Baker Mayfield is legitimately like a top 10 quarterback in football, which he has been these past few weeks, then yeah, this is for sure a playoff team. There's still some issues. I still think defensively, they need to be healthy in the secondary, and they haven't been healthy in the secondary all season to have a chance. They have no depth there, which that was one of my big concerns heading into the year was, are we really going to have Zion McCollum be outside corner number 3? It just hasn't worked out, and that's been they've given up yards, but they're generating turnovers. Devin White had a big game coming back from being kind of benched, maybe. They have guys who can make big plays, and I think defensively they can do enough. Offensively they can do enough. They for sure feel like a playoff team, but there's still some issues, so I can't put them higher than that. Obviously, they're not Super Bowl contenders, but they're closer to maybe playoffs than Super Bowl contenders for sure. But I'll put them in this tier. Why not? The Raiders, again. They're fine. They're fine. Plucky but bad. Or did I put them in mid? I can't remember. I'll put them in plucky but bad just because that evens out the tiers a little bit. But you could argue either one. The Titans are also plucky but bad, I think. Things to like about them, but again, they're just. I don't even think Titans fans would argue with this one. It's just it's been a tough year for them. Finally, the Jaguars, who I've kind of permanently put in this tier. I remember some Jaguars fans weren't thrilled that I believe I never put them in Super Bowl contenders, despite the fact that, at one point, for about, 2.5 hours, they were the 1 seed, 3-4 hours, I guess it would be. They were the 1 seed. I've kept them in this tier because I had concerns about their receiving core. I had some concerns about their offensive line and their pass rush. I always loved their secondary and Trevor Lawrence, but now the secondary isn't playing as well, and Trevor Lawrence is banged up and he's not playing as well. So, maybe playoffs is kind of the highest I can go. They're probably closer to mid than they are for sure playoffs, however, at this point. Can it turn around? Absolutely. But Lawrence has to get healthy. If Lawrence isn't healthy, this is not for sure a playoff team. They're just not. That's how I view it. If Lawrence is healthy, then they're for sure a playoff team. It's that simple. So, yeah. That is my holiday tier rankings. Hopefully, if you're watching this on the holidays, you're happy that I liked your team and not disappointed that I put your team in too low of a tier. Hopefully hopefully that worked out well for everybody. But yeah, again, Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate. And if you don't, well then I don't know. Have a good Monday, I guess. But yeah, thank you for watching this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.